Hello dear friends, welcome back to Poplicial for you dear friends. As you know that we are discussing about the femur bone, the important landmarks and markings of the femur bone, right? So up to now we have covered the upper part of the femur bone, right? Then the upper one third of the shaft, the middle one third of the shaft and the lower one third of the shaft of the femur we have covered. Right. Now, the remaining part is the lower part of the femur. First of all, let me introduce that femur is a long bone, right? It has an proximal epiphysis that, as I have discussed in the anatomy of long bones. Then it has a diaphysis and then it has a distal epiphysis, right? So lower part, upper part, middle shaft, right? What are the markings in the upper part? We have discussed in videos. I hope you have watched them. The markings in the shaft of the femur bone we have already discussed, and now the remaining part of the femur, which is the lower part of the femur, let us discuss it. Look carefully friends, the lower part of the femur is discussed under 4 titles. What are those? Look, first of all, as this is the left femur bone, right? So there is the anterior surface, there is the posterior surface, there is the medial side and there is the lateral side, right? So how many titles? 4 titles. We will discuss this bone in 4 titles. What are those? Again, the anterior side, and what are the markings in the anterior side? We will see the posterior side and what are the posterior markings of the femur bone. Then the medial side and what are the markings in the medial and the markings in the lateral side of the femur bone. Let us discuss it. So the lower part, or we say the lower end of the femur. Lower end of femur bone. As there is an upper end, now this is the lower end. So as I told you that it is discussed under 4 titles. First, the anterior side. Let us see the important landmarks in the anterior side of this femur bone. My dear friends, this anterior side of the femur bone, it is just having a surface, right, which is called the patellar surface. As here is a sesamoid shaped bone which is called patella, so this surface gives house and gives part for the patella of your lower limb, right? So the patella bone is present here. That's why we say that this anterior side has a little bit depression, a very little depression for patella. That's why we say that this side has a patellar surface. Patellar surface. Right friends. Now let us go towards the posterior side. Right now we are just discussing about the markings of the bone. As I will finish it, then we will discuss about the attachment of muscles and ligaments to it also. So the posterior side of the femur bone has many land markings. And what are those land markings? Look carefully friends. This is the anterior side, the patellar surface. Now this is the posterior side. So the posterior side is also known as the poplicial surface, right? As there is the poplicial fossa, so we say this is called the poplicial surface, right? Then the next important point about this, that this posterior side of the femur bone has here a fossa, a depression, right? And this depression is present in between the 2 condyles, right? That's why we say that this is called the intercondylar fossa. So there is the intercondylar fossa, right? And then there is the intercondylar line also present there, right? So we said there is the intercondylar line. These are the important points we should know, right? And then there is the intercondylar fossa done, the intercondylar line, and then there are the 2 supracondylar lines. Look, one line is this one and one line is this one, right? So these two lines are present superior to these condyles. That's why we say that this is the medial supracondylar line and this is the lateral supracondylar line. So the next thing is the medial supracondylar line, right? And then there is the lateral supracondylar line, right friends? Okay, as I have mentioned here, and I will show in the next video all these landmarks in the next video, right friends? So there is the intercondylar line, there is the intercondylar fossa, and then there is the medial supracondylar line and lateral supracondylar line, and the posterior side is also known as the poplicial surface, right? Then let's go towards the medial side. Medial side. In the medial side of this femur bone, right? Look carefully, friends. This is the right femur, right? Left femur. This is the medial side, and this is the lateral side. In the medial side of it, totally, it has some important landmarks. And what are those? First of all, it has a medial condyle, right? In the medial side, it has a medial condyle. Right? Then the next part of it is that this is the medial condyle, and this part is called the medial epicondyle. As this condyle is present above the condyle, that's why we say this part is present above the condyle. That's why we say that this is the epicondyle, right? So there is the medial epicondyle, right? And about the medial condyle, we say that this medial condyle is a little bit convex. It is a little bit convex. And as we will see that the lateral condyle will be a little bit flat, right? You can see here this is a little bit convex, but the lateral condyle is a little bit flat. I will show you in the next lecture, right? So there is medial condyle, there is the medial epicondyle, and there is the important tubercle which is called the adductor tubercle, right? So here we have a tubercle which is called the adductor tubercle. Let me write here. The third important point, adductor tubercle. Done, friends. So the medial side of the lower end of the femur has these three important landmarks. What are those? Medial condyle, medial epicondyle, and adductor tubercle. It has, I will show you in the video in the next lecture, right? Then there is the lateral side of the femur, of the lower part of the lower end of the femur bone. So the lateral side has the same things, but a little bit with a little bit differences. If there is the medial condyle, then there is also a lateral condyle. Lateral condyle, right? And if there is the medial epicondyle, then there is also a lateral epicondyle. Lateral epicondyle, right friends? Okay, then this medial epicondyle was a convex, but the lateral epicondyle is a little bit flat, right? And we say that more weight of our body is transformed to the leg by this lateral condyle, right? So this lateral condyle is a little bit flat, right? And it transforms more weight of your body to the leg, right friends? So we say that lateral condyle is flat and there is a lateral epicondyle, right? And then there is another important thing which is called the poplicial groove. So the third important point about the lateral aspects of the lower end of the femur bone, there is the poplicial groove is there. Poplicial groove, and I will show them in the next lecture, right? In this bone itself, right? So what are these parts about the lower end of the femur bone? We have its anterior side, posterior side, medial side, and lateral side. The anterior side is also known as the poplicial surface, right? And the posterior side, posterior side is also known as poplicial surface. Okay, then there is the important points about the posterior side. There is the intercondylar fossa, there is intercondylar line, there is medial supracondylar line and lateral supracondylar line, right? In the medial side there is the medial condyle, there is medial epicondyle, and then there is an adductor which is called the adductor tubercle, right? And in the lateral side we have the lateral condyle, lateral epicondyle, and the poplicial groove. Now let us go in the next video and see all these important points in this bone itself, right? See you there.